This short video will give you an overview of two design activities that you're going to engage with today. One is the persona development and the other one is about defining a design challenge. So this presentation will look at what a persona is, how one creates a persona, and how you can then define design challenges. So if you remember, this was our learning design process, and we said it always starts with empathize. So it means it always starts with the learner that we are designing with and designing for. Ideally, the learners are in the room and have a conversation with you about their needs. But if that is not possible, like in your case, currently your learners cannot be in one room with you, we do a persona development, which is kind of a substitute for the real thing, a substitute for having the real learners in the room and designing with them. But it's about creating a typical student persona that you can then refer to when you do your design challenges. So that's the first step in the design process. And a persona is really a user archetype. It's a typical learner that we represent visually and that helps you focus a design activity on a particular individual or particular user in a very specific context. So it's all about understanding the context, understanding the learner. And in your case, that is a typical, your user, the person who is going to use your design is or are your learners. So the persona that you're designing for, you can pick one student. A typical student in your class could be a real student, or it could be a fictitious student made up of the many students that you have engaged and encountered in your practice. So you'd create this person, you'll give the person a name, an age, where do they come from, where do they stay, who are they? And you give you give us a little bit of background. What is their highest educational level? Are they male or female? You can draw them. I hope you all have a piece of paper somewhere and color pens. And then you give us a bit more background. So what motivates them? Why do they study? Why are they at the TTC? What do they want to achieve in life? What are the strengths that they can draw from? What helps them in their studies? What kind of resources do they have access to? But also, what are their challenges? And from that, then, you can create a picture of a person. So these are, as you know, when we started creating this course, we also went through a co-design process, and some of you were part of this. So we had two workshops with experts from DTED and from GIZ and GOPA, some external consultants and local representatives from the TTCs. And we asked, in those workshops, we asked people to draw up this kind of a persona. So who is the typical TTC lecturer that we are going to design this course for? And this was our first persona that was developed. This is Mr. John Banda. And you can see he is 42, he's married, has 5 children. He teaches English at one of the TTCs. He has a bachelor degree and a PGCE in education, so he has a bit of understanding of teaching and learning. He's been at 3 years at the TTC, but he has never done an online course, and he stays in Blantyre. In terms of access to devices and how he uses technology in teaching and learning at the moment, is he's got a smartphone, so he has some internet connectivity, but he has to buy airtime. So he uses that smartphone for downloading information, like to develop his teaching notes. He also has a desktop computer in the office, but unfortunately that's not connected to the internet. But he uses it to print material, to share with the students, and to prepare for his lectures. At home he has no computer, so he can't really use a lot of ICTs in the lecture. Sometimes he might have a PowerPoint that he developed and he borrows a laptop and the projector, but it's a lot of work, so he usually doesn't use a lot of technology in the classroom. And the students, because they have no access to technology either, submit handwritten papers, but use their own smartphones for research. And sometimes the computer lab, if they have access to. So that already creates an understanding for who we are, for who we have to design, who the people are that we are designing the course for. So why he wants to enroll in this course is because he wants to learn new skills. He understands that, computer skills, information literacy skills are necessary. He wants to learn how to develop PowerPoints. He needs more internet safety skills. He wants to learn about instructional design, and he's really interested in Excel. So he wants to improve his communication and collaboration using technology, and he also wants to learn how to use it more for research. The challenges he faces is airtime, computer skills, need to find information quickly because he has only limited airtime. He often feels quite frustrated because of the kind of context that he works in, and we also know electricity is not stable. He has fears, he might not find all what he needs. He has fear of change, that, with all these new technologies, his work might change and he might not be ready for it. So there's also fear of failure somehow in there, to catch up with the latest technology, the feeling that the students are actually more advanced than him. So there's a lot of uncertainty that he has to deal with. So the expectations for this training is that it should be face-to-face. He needs support. He needs somebody to show him how to navigate the course. He might understand that he has to travel to another location, but that's fine. But he wants hands-on sessions. He wants hands-on computer skills sessions, and he wants to acquire new skills. Also, he sees this as a step-by-step training. So he wants to start where he is and then be slowly guided to more difficult skills. And really to start with simple devices, with what he has, the phone, the computer, nothing fancy. So that is Mr. John Banda. Then we did another persona in the second design, and that is Mr. Gama. Also a man, 45, married, 3 children, also lecturer at the TTC, but at Montfort. He teaches life skills. He's got a master's degree that he obtained in Malawi, and he lives in Girard-Zulu. He has even less access than the other persona, because he doesn't even have, he has a desktop with internet, but he has no smartphone, for example. So his only access to the internet is at work. So he uses his computer to get information, research, storing information, and he can ask for help. He has an ICT officer that he can refer to. So his motivation to enroll in this course is to identify resources by using ICTs, to learn about things that make his work easier. And he also wants to have fun and be excited. So he has a lot of expectations. He wants to see how new opportunities can open up for him to make his life easier, and also his students. So he's really driven by efficiency. If computers don't make his life easier, he won't use them. And he wants to create such engaging courses that his students do not want to miss any of his classes because they're so exciting. So his challenges are similar to the other persona. He can't use all his different programs. There's a lack of internet connectivity. Because he has no smartphone at home, he can't regularly practice, only when he's in his office and the electricity is on. He can't use projectors. There is this tension between him and his students, and the feeling that his students are actually better equipped to respond to these new ages and the new technologies than him. And he doesn't feel there's enough. Although there is a little bit of support, it's never enough. His fears are also similar. There's an understanding that his mind shift has to change because there are these new ways of teaching and learning now. It's more inquiry-based, more learning-centered. And he feels a real resistance to change in him. He has been doing things for his whole life in a certain way. He has been taught like this. He went to school in this culture. So it's really hard for him to shift or to move. And he doesn't even believe in technology. Really, if technology is difficult and it's frustrating and it doesn't help him, actually, why would he use it? And there's also fear of not being able to deliver his course when he uses technology, because there might be so many problems, so many things he has to fiddle with that he actually can't focus on teaching. So there's a fear of failure there that really he struggles with, and that he kind of blocks him in engaging more with ICTs. So his expectation of the training is also that it's hands-on, it's face-to-face in a workshop. He wants to learn skills he can apply directly in his teaching. He also wants to have long-term access to technology, not only during the workshop, but also afterwards, so he can continue practicing. He sees this training happening more or less over a week, ideally during the holidays. And then he needs a lot of support after the training. And he wants to also engage with technology beyond the classroom. So you can see two different personas, both are TTCs, but you can see the different kind of emphasis for these lecturers. So then after we drew up this persona and shared it, we started brainstorming. So what are the kind of teaching and learning challenges that these lecturers are, have to respond to? And the first group came up with these 4 groupings of challenges. So there are things around the attitude towards learning new skills. So there's something that people are afraid of. There's a fear of change, there's a resistance, there's a feeling people are overtaking them. So there's a bit of, there needs to be some advocacy work to show them that technology is actually something that can make their life easier. There's also a lot around shifting the teaching and learning paradigm, and we've heard a lot around the new curriculum and how it shifts away from more teacher-centered to more learning-centered ways of teaching and learning, inquiry-based, that are led by students, where students have to co-construct knowledge, and the lecturer doesn't just offer all the knowledge himself. So there's a need for some cultural shift there and some work within the TTCs. And there's also an idea that teachers and learners or students are learning at the same time. So the spirit of collaboration needs to somehow be grown. There's not an understanding that learners and lecturers could work together in this. There's a lack of skills for sure on computer skills, information literacy skills, but there are also challenges around infrastructure and technology. And the second group came up with very similar challenges. So the whole area of skills, and that we need a practical approach to the training. It has to be sustainable. So we need to keep being able to continue learning, to transfer knowledge between lecturers, to help, so some sort of peer support. But there's also stuff around attitudes and beliefs, as the other group also said, that we need to accept that there's change that's happening, that we have to adopt to that we could maybe link this to other initiatives such as the critical thinking project, and that there needs to be support also by the HODs or, the principal to encourage lecturers to embrace this new way of teaching and learning. And then there's a big area of challenges around infrastructure. How do we practice these skills? How do we get access on a more sustainable way? Can we all get smartphones or tablets for lecturers? We need projectors for the classrooms. We need laptops that we can borrow. So lots of issues there. And then issues around support within the system, between TTCs, between colleagues, between lecturers and students, to create this idea of a community of practice where people can start sharing and learning from each other. And again, that leads back to encouragement by management and how to provide this kind of sustainable, ongoing training and follow-up for lecturers. Yeah? So can you see what a rich picture we could draw just by engaging? This workshop lasted maybe an hour and a half each, and together we kind of very quickly got a very rich picture of the context that we are working with. And then in our course design, if you've had time to read, we took this information that we got from you, from the lecturers, and tried to create a course design that would respond to these challenges, and a course design that would be designed directly in relation to these personas that we developed. So you'll find within the contents and within the aims for this course, we have tried to embed all of the challenges. So not just the computer and information literacy, but also how to integrate teaching and learning technology into teaching and learning, and also how to move from the more teacher-centered to the more learner-centered way. That's why we created this, or we integrated this model that Isabel developed. So we move in two ways. So we improve the use of technology in teaching and learning, but at the same time, we're thinking about how can we use technology to actually not only support traditional teaching and learning, but also more learner-centric teaching and learning. So how can we all move into this quadrant C of this diagram? And the course content reflects exactly these kind of challenges. So we're looking at how to integrate teaching and learning, content and pedagogy, and practice and theory, how to develop teaching and learning assessment resources using digital tools, but also to create this community of sharing experiences and learning from each other and sharing resources and drawing from e-learning champions, so that at the end we can not only improve skills, but we can also bring that paradigm shift in how we teach and how we think about teaching and learning at the TTCs. So this is what you'll have to do. So these were the personas that we developed to create this course. You will create your own personas, your own learners, to design learning activities for your own specific disciplines. What's really interesting for us is that we are running this course in 2 iterations, and you are the master trainer. So your persona is, for example, very different from the kind of personas that we developed in the co-design workshops. But so we had to design a course that would not only address the typical TTC lecturer, but also TTC lecturers who are at a higher level in terms of using ICTs and thinking about teaching and learning. So it will be very interesting to see how you experience this course, whether you also found it interesting, so whether we are able to design a course that can interest both personas, the one that are more advanced and the one that are more that are at a more basic level. So that is really the design challenge for us in this course iteration. So thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to see your personas.